Raging drunk, remember last night I got raging drunk with you. It's an Avett Brothers song. It's quite a hype song. I listened to it this morning and it got me really excited. But I am tired. Let's drink some tea together. Get whatever you like to drink. This little carafe is going to be spitting out some air pressure as it continues to try to keep itself heated. How are you this morning? My name is Tyler. What's your name? That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. All right. This time I do have the tea from 2011, and I'm very excited for it. Y'all hear that? I don't know what that was, but I do have some laundry going in the other room, so it might be connected with that. And if you hear a little jingle, some Mozart or whatever, it is those. Let's just take our moment here in the beginning to take our wonderful first sips of our drinks of choice. Milk, water, coffee, tea, juice box. Just enjoy it for a little bit. It's really good. Oh man, it smells so good. This, I'm pouring it off. It's a rinse, and so it's just a little bit of water to kind of open up the tea and get it ready to be actually brewed. So if you think I'm wasting tea, it's kind of not technically considered tea, and also I like to drink it a little bit, but I kind of want to get right into tasting and getting to the goodness of this tea real quick. Oh, you know what? If that jingle keeps going, I might have to run and go get it. Yeah, just warm water, really. It's so good. That's all I need in life is different temp waters. Warm water right away in the morning, cool water through the day, warm water right before bed. Or like room temperature during the day. I'm never like a cold water type of guy. Unless if I'm like dehydrated and really hot, like in the summer. Even then, like I'll drink a bunch of room temperature water to like get the water that I know I need, and then once when I have that, then I'll take like some ice water. And that's really good. I can hear it. I don't know if the mic is picking it up because of the noise reducer thing, but the washing machine just got done. All right, let's get into reflection with this first cup of tea. So I want to talk today about love because it came to mind. That's pretty much just about it. It came up this morning. I thought about love, and so here we are, and we're going to talk about it. And it is the idea specifically of unconditional love that I would like to get into, because in my life and where I've looked, the kind of unattainable unimaginable love that is unconditional love is both horribly underestimated as well as made overly complicated. Which is to say that unconditional love is simply to love without condition. So it is very simple. But we have this idea that we do not have access as people to this unconditional love. That we love things because of certain things. And when I say I love you, what I'm really saying is I like the way that you make me feel. I feel good around you. Which in most cases is what people are saying when they say they love something. Like, I love a McDonald's cheeseburger. They don't love it in the way that it can be in its being exactly how it is, and it is experienced as perfection, but they like the way it makes them feel. And then there is unconditional love, which is the idea that all that is acceptable. Now, for some reason, we have this idea that we can love everything really easily when it's good. But when it's not good, then it's not necessarily worth loving. But the curious thing about unconditional love is that if unconditional love exists, then it exists independent of humanity. It exists independent of the mind. And thus, it exists somewhere in the process of nature, in the process of everything moving, in the unconditional space. Now, I don't know necessarily if that really makes sense to you, but I'll try to get into it and iron that one out. But if any one thing in all of history has ever been worthy of unconditional love in the entire history of the universe, human, non-human, being, non-being, material, non-material, if any single one thing has ever been deserving of unconditional love, then all things have. And that is the nature of it. That if one gets it, then all gets it. Because if you think only one thing deserves unconditional love, then the condition for which that unconditional love exists is for that one thing. That if you think that your child deserves unconditional love, then all deserve unconditional love. Because if your child deserves unconditional love, then the condition cannot be that they are your child. Cheers. Now, I think that one makes a little bit more sense. We're almost there. We're almost there. We're getting closer to something a little bit more. So I believe that we have access to this unconditional love. That our being is a part of the unconditional nature of all things. And I would go so far as to say that anything that exists without condition, anything that exists without relativity, exists in a space of love. And that is to say that my answer to Einstein's question, is the universe benevolent? My answer would be undoubtedly yes. The universe is, in fact, benevolent. That the nature of reality is infinitely times better than the stories that we create about it. Little hiccup burp combo threw me for a loop. Threw me for a big loop. I am really tired this morning. I don't know if you can tell, but I had a long weekend. I got up real early this morning. I got up at like 6 in the morning with the sun singing its praises. And then I tried to lay back down again because I was real tired. But we're drinking tea. We're talking out of camera and we're having fun. But for some reason, at some time, we have gotten the idea that there needs to be a material essence to the things that we love. That there needs to be a cause, and that love is the effect of a certain cause, such as a cheeseburger, right? That the cause and effect relationship of eating a cheeseburger ends in you enjoying it so much that you're in love with it, that you're getting love from the cheeseburger. That I love this cheeseburger because it tastes good. I love this cheeseburger because it makes me feel good. I love because. I love because. I love because. I love because. I love you because you make me smile. I love you because your eyes are green and that's my favorite color. And we begin to get into the cycle that we really need to be super clever and smart about how and what we love. And then you get into this sort of like liberal ideology of educated people are better at loving than the ignorant people. And that hatred comes from ignorance and love comes from learning. And when you get educated and you learn how to love right. You love what is the correct way to love. And so I love my suffering Black community because I didn't realize it before, but now I know I am privileged. And so I need to love them. And I am a lover because I'm educated in that way. And I have experienced it and known it. But unconditional love requires no intellectual ability at all. Actually, it requires the opposite. It requires a giving up, because the intellectual mind is the one that creates the conditions for which love either occurs or does not occur. It creates the conditional love. And so an educated mind would say, my conditioned love is better than yours because I know more than you. And then the intellectual mind that's ignorant would say, screw off to your conditional love. My conditional love is better because I'm experiencing things and you're just a little frou-frou liberal fuck off or whatever at your college who's not actually doing anything. And so there's both this like existence of a highly conditioned love relationship to thing and what we should or shouldn't care about, all based around condition, all based around relativity in a space where the antidote to the toxicity in our lives exists within a space of unconditional love, exists within a space where conditions can no longer be. And if conditions come in, then it is ruined. Again, I'll try to iron this out. If it doesn't make sense right now. Because unconditional love requires an unconditioned lover. That means that the locus for which the love is emanating can only come from a being that exists without condition. And so if we believe that there has ever been any person, existent or non-existent, real or not real, that has been capable of unconditional love, then that person has gone through at least a process of deconditioning. Now, in the West, in America here, we have Christ. That's kind of our little boy Christ, running around being our unconditional lover for us. And a lot of us groovy young people have this image of Christ as this countercultural, kind of groovy guy that's been misunderstood for a really long time by old people. And that Christ has been distorted by the church into something that he was never. That Christ was this thing, and that the church has kind of fucked him up into this weird crusading savior guy. But that the important part of Christ was his countercultural love for those who seemed undeserving. And I'm starting to think now that what made Christ Christ had everything to do with a process of deconditioning, a process of peeling off the layers of relationship and identity that put up conditions between what should be loved and what shouldn't. That Christ made his way to God. This is all in quotations, meaning it's heavily esoteric and metaphorical. He made his way to God not through a innate being of being born as the Son of God or as a sort of like chosen one sort of story, but he made his way to God through a deep process of giving up condition, giving up being right about who is worthy of love, and understanding that if it is worthy, that all beings are worthy of unconditional love, because that is the nature of it. It either exists for all or it doesn't exist at all. And the fact is that even if you feel like you have never experienced unconditional love, that you can go to a bookstore and you can pick up a book and you can read 3 pages of someone who has said that they have experienced unconditional love. And I can tell you right now that I have experienced unconditional love. And so with that fact in mind, no matter how solipsistic I get, no matter how alone I feel, no matter where I go, I can always remember that unconditional love exists. And if unconditional love exists for one, it exists for all, because the nature of it is that it is non-located and it is accessible to everything and everyone. I'm excited to listen to this one back because I think I'll have a lot more to say on it when I can hear what I'm saying and iron them out. But I need to keep moving forward. I need to keep moving forward. And so I can't think about what I said and try to iron that out. I can only just continue forward. The space doesn't give me the that sort of environment of refining something. It is far too loose. Far too loose. And so I feel pulled to nature to become witness to the unconditional love of grass and trees and clouds and the sun, because I have experienced it once or twice or however many times. That I exist in the same world that one single blade of grass is growing in. That I am a part of the same process that a tree is budding right now. That the leaves are about to come in the spring. I am a part of that process. And within that process exists at some level unconditional love, whether I am experiencing it or not. And so, in my case, because I have experienced it, or if you are someone who believes in it because someone else has experienced it, let me try that again. Because I have experienced it. No, I think the thought just left. It just walked right out. It's gone. Yeah, that thought is gone. How fun it is to get distracted. At least we have tea and time together. I mean, that's really what is important. It's just being here. Oh, I'll show you this tea too. Since it's a first time ordeal. Here, if you're watching, getting that tea, it might look like the last one. Let me tell you, it's different. Tastes different, smells different, looks a little bit different. It's good as shit. It's from 2011. It's old. It's a decade old. It's got beautiful golden color to the liquor. Okay. So, when I say that unconditional love is accessible, what I am saying is not that we are loved unconditionally, because the experience of that or non-experience of that, oh, that's what I was saying before, that because I have experienced it once, I know that I cannot be callous enough to believe myself when I think that the beauty of the universe does not exist just because I'm not experiencing it in the moment. Just because I'm not experiencing unconditional love and pure rapture and bliss in this moment, I cannot be so callous and judgmental to say that it doesn't exist, or that it can't be there, or it's not within me, or any of this sort of like self-denying, solipsistic bullshit of like, I'm not good enough because I'm not experiencing things well. Because of the first experience of it, the whole entire game has changed. That's what I was saying before. And if you believe that it has ever existed, then you can sure as hell believe that you are not the judge of its existence or not. It's only the people that don't believe it exists that can judge it. And we can let them go. We can let them judge. That's a fun one. But the real important part of this is not whether it exists or not. Because regardless if you believe it or not, regardless if you experience it or not, it's either there or it's not. It's as simple as that. And if it's there, cool. And if it's not, cool. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But when I say that unconditional love is accessible, what I'm saying, not that it's for us, but that it is us that can be unconditional in our love. That we can go through a process of deconditioning that ends in, not even ends, but I say not even ends, even though it is an end, ends in unconditional love. But in my experience, it is a dipping in and out, kind of like a hot tub. Like I drop in for a little bit and then I get out. And then I go back in and then I get out. And maybe I sit in for a little longer. Maybe I have to dip my toes in to get used to the warm water. Whatever it is. But that the ends of the means of deconditioning is being unconditional love. That if I experience unconditional love, and I experience it through a sense of an unconditioned mind and heart, like that of a baby child before consciousness, then I can do work and processes here now to let go of my reaction to the conditions that I build. Okay? And so this is the spiritual path in a very roundabout way. That any sort of spiritual path is a path that leads you through a deconditioning into unconditional love. Now, I thought I wanted to be enlightened. I thought I wanted to be free. But now I realize that I can only get enlightened and I can only be free when I love what is without condition. That I have to be as open and accepting as possible. And that is a full giving up. That is an entire death of being. And that is a total unconditional space of being that exists on the other side of consciousness, because consciousness comes to make sense of experience. Experience happens, and that experience gets broken down into data, and that data gets transformed into thought. That data gets translated into thought. And so consciousness experiences through thought. Consciousness is a reaction to thought. And so this conscious being tries to use thought, what it believes to be experience, as the director. And in this space of thought, things only exist relative to another thing. That there can only be one if there is another thing separate from it that you can distinguish them. Even though in your experience, you can experience something as non-relative. And this is why for mystics and spiritual teachers, it's hard to talk about. Because your experience, if you're reacting to experience, what you're seeing is something that does not exist within the confines of consciousness. It doesn't exist within thought. It doesn't exist in something that can be transferred between consciousness. It exists only within the experience that it is happening. And that the moment that it goes from that experience and broken down and translated, it is removed from that thing. And you will never be able to get there through the consciousness and the thought. And so, through various traditions, there are various paths to get to this space of living within unconditioned, by becoming a deconditioned being. In Buddhism, it is through a decisive, deliberate mind. That you use the mind to fight, in quotes, fight the mind. I wouldn't use that language. I don't think it's very helpful. But you use the mind to remove the layers of the mind that create a conditional reality. And on the other side of that conditional reality, when you get to the deconditioned part after 7 seconds of meditation or after 77 years of meditation, you will get to enlightenment. And this enlightenment, this true freedom, is existing in a space without condition. Because that's where the true love is. And then through yoga, through Hindu practices, coming in to love and connection with creation and God, they have various different forms. And Buddhism obviously has its sects, and then Christianity has Jesus, its little lover boy. Jews have God and the patriarchs, the promises, the Psalms and the Lamentations. This beautiful word. Unfortunately, I don't have very much experience confronting the Quran or reading or interfacing with it in any way. But I've read poetry from some Muslim poets that have been very reverent and beautiful. And I'm saying this to say that it's hard to look somewhere where you do not see this relationship of people telling you that it's okay. If you want to love, all you have to do is just give up. You just have to give up your conditioning. And then when you get to the other side of it, and you've been scared of it this whole time, you'll finally get to the place where you can exist with us, with everything that's going on here. It is really hard to find a serious religion or a mystical work that does not have the essence of that somewhere within it. And it makes me think about how I judge wisdom, which is funny to talk about me judging wisdom after this whole time going through deconditioning, because any sort of judgment is a condition. It is a relative space. But I think it's helpful not only for me not to necessarily judge something, but to get a temp of myself of where I'm at in terms of am I open? Is my heart open to this wisdom? And that is that wisdom is anything that comes from an open heart. So the actual material, the words that are said, don't necessarily have anything to do with if it's wisdom or not. And that actually there is a relationship between the words and the observer of the words that creates the point of wisdom or foolishness. Okay? And that there are some things that obviously seem foolish. Okay? I'll try to come up with an example. Such as, don't Don't live with your best friend. Don't, when you move to college or something, don't live with your best friend because your relationship can get ruined by living together. Now, that to me in this moment seems very obviously like it comes from a closed heart. Like it comes from a being that was burned, that got hurt. And so in my conceptual reality, that would exist in the space of foolishness. Now, also, that is me interfacing with it and witnessing the density of my being and my closed offness and saying, yes, that is foolishness. But there may be wisdom in there if you can come at it with an open enough heart and mind. And that wisdom may be that you leave it behind, that you don't acknowledge it at all. That the wisdom of it is that it is empty, that the phrase itself, the advice itself is empty. And then there can also be things that seem very mundane, such as thoughts come and go like the wind. It's so lame. It's like a milquetoast spiritual phrase. Like I would go to a yoga studio in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota, and I would see that on a sign on the wall. It just doesn't, it's not striking in a way, but the amount of wisdom that can be accepted from that phrase is relatively infinite. It doesn't exist in a conditional space if it's accepting enough. So I think my sending off will be an update on where I am currently. And that is, I am looking towards nature as a reminder to myself of that space of unconditional love. That through something, through some experience or some understanding, I can sit with a tree, and while sitting with that tree, I can be in total, all-encompassing love. So that's where I'm at now. And may that be that I'm becoming a nature mystic. Sure, whatever. But really, that's more of an I'll update you later on how I'm doing with my trees. So let's do a couple moments of silence here. Again, I won't be quiet. I'll be drinking tea, but just relax. Try to open your mind to the love that is. Actually, don't try. Give up and let the love that is come. And if you want it, you can have it. All right, that was very nice. Thank you. It is really nice being here, just in general. I enjoy being me and I enjoy existing. It's fun. And if you feel like it takes a lot of effort to exist, just stop trying for a little bit and see what happens. That might be a fun experiment. Okay, tomorrow, 8:30 Central Time, 8:30 a.m. Central Time. I might be here. And I may never see you again. Goodbye.